You're watching this video because the title or thumbnail caught your attention, which means that you feel the pain of the monotonous outreach, sending thousands of DMs and emails and cold calling hundreds of people on a weekly basis to completely no avail. Or you figured out a way to make it work, but you know how low leveraged and tedious the outreach really is and how hard it is to actually get a result and keep that result continuously going and make it substantial to the point of where you can actually scale. No matter what your reason is for clicking this video, I'm sure I can help you out with this video. And I'm sure if you stay for the next 15-20 minutes, you will thank me after. If you don't know who I am, my name's Callum. I run a coaching program. I know I'm a coach, where I basically help people turn their skills into profit and then scale that profit to, those 10, 20, 30K a month marks using typically a service-based business, right? People take their skills, turn them into a service-based business and then scale those service-based businesses, which means that number one, I help a lot of people with outreach. I help a lot of people use different methods and mechanisms and unique techniques to actually get themselves out into the market. And number two, I'm a creator. I have over 800,000 followers now online, which means that I get a lot of DMs on a daily basis. DMs, emails. I would probably say that I get 50 plus DMs and emails on a daily basis, which means I'm pretty well versed within the outreach space because I know what works. I know what DMs and emails I open and reply to. I know what DMs and emails work for my students. And I know the outreach methods that actually produce a result based on a bunch of different training, a bunch of different testing, trials and tribulations to get to this point. And so I wanted to make this video. I've got a bunch of notes on my Remarkable here, basically running you through why outreach is dead and why typical outreach or traditional outreach that you would run with a service-based business does not work anymore. And the main reason being is because there are so many people sending the same messages, sending the same copy and paste templated messages to the same markets with the exact same offer, and it doesn't work. And if you're someone who sends outreach yourself, you probably feel the exact same thing, where you are literally ripping yourself apart, trying to get responses from people. And when you do get responses, they're blunt, they're mundane. You probably lose them within the DM conversation somewhere going forward because you don't actually know how to pitch your service properly and create incentive for them to jump on a call. It's incredibly hard for you to stand out. And when you do get a bite on your line, when you get someone that's interested, it's incredibly hard to actually keep them hooked on. And so I'm going to run you through a method of outreach that I've been using, that I teach my students to use, that I teach everyone I know how to use, that actually produces a result, an outreach that actually it's enjoyable to do. You get excited to do outreach. It's not the kind of thing where you wake up in the morning, you open up LinkedIn and you think, Jesus Christ, or in Instagram, you think I have to DM 100 people today to try and potentially even get one response of someone saying no. I'm going to show you a method that works, a method that is trialed and tested and is proven to work across the board that I think you're going to find incredibly useful because I've been using it. And I started an agency originally before what I do now, doing the exact same thing, the email outreach, the DM outreach. In fact, only 2 months ago, I did a challenge where I speed ran from nothing to 10K as quickly as I could using a service-based business to prove that the methods and the strategies that I use actually work. And although I didn't use the exact method I'm about to explain here, I did use a very similar structure that I'm going to run you guys through, which I think is going to be incredibly helpful. So let me kind of dive into why outreach is dead, modern outreach is dead, and how to actually get around that and different techniques that you can use, or a very particular technique that you can use to actually scale your service-based business in 2025, because that's the year we're in, I think. Now, the first thing you need to understand before I actually run through the method is that there are two different types of outreach, okay? Or actually, there's two different types of client acquisition. That's inbound and outbound. Outbound is your typical outreach. It's DMing people, it's cold calling people, it's sending people the emails, it's sending people LinkedIn DMs. It's going from one to another. It's going from you outbound, okay? And the second method of client acquisition is inbound. And this is where people come to you. This is where people maybe see your ads, or they see your content, or they see your billboard in the street for whatever reason, right? And they have seen you and they are approaching you. You get inbound leads and outbound leads. Now, you should probably know that if you run a business, but it's important to identify the distinction between the two because one of them is incredibly high leverage and one of them is not high leverage. And I'm guessing the kind of outreach that you're doing is all outbound outreach at the moment, or client acquisition is all outbound in terms of that you are reaching out to people and trying to grab people's attention. Incredibly low leverage because for you to actually grab someone's attention, you have to reach out to them, which means that for every response you try and get, it costs you a certain amount of energy. It's a kind of one-for-one kind of thing, right? And it's not even one-for-one because typically you have to send 100, 200, 300 messages before you actually get a response. But what I'm trying to say is that there is no way of you not doing anything and getting a response. You have to do something and get a response, which means that it's low leverage because for every response you get, you have to do something 100 times. And that's not what you want. That's not how you scale a business. You want to scale a business, you need to find a method, a way to actually do do less but get more out of doing less, if that makes sense. And the only way you can do that is through inbound client acquisition methods and setting up systems and planting seeds for inbound client acquisition strategies, or let's just say lead generation strategies instead of client acquisition, right? And the best way that I've actually found to do that, the best kind of outreach strategy that I've always found to use, is something called omnipresence. And omnipresence is basically the art, the act of like being everywhere and anywhere at the same time, right? Omnipresence, I think it literally stands for omni, as in all the time, everywhere, presence, right? You're everywhere all the time, as I just said. Now, the way to actually create omnipresence through your outreach is basically, it's the idea of making someone feel like they know you, right? It's making someone feel like they already know of you. There's a bit of rapport built there. There's a bit of social proof built there. And it means when you do your outreach, or you actually pitch someone something, or you try to get them on a call, there is always a much warmer response. There's always people much more interested and much more open to actually conversating with you because they feel like they know you. Now, there's loads of different ways that you can actually create omnipresence. Like one method, for example, is that if you're reaching out to companies, don't just reach out to the one decision maker, reach out to all of the decision makers or all of the people that are high up. You know, if you're reaching out to a SaaS company, right, don't just reach out to the CEO, reach out to the marketing manager, the chief technical officer, reach out to the chief of operations, reach out to the head of social media, whatever it is, right? Because reaching out to multiple members on the team, you create this kind of aura of omnipresence. Not only doing that, but creating content is also a fantastic way to create omnipresence, because if they see your content and you outreach, there's a kind of double-sided approach there where they feel like they know you now. There's a bit of trust and social proof built there. And also when you outreach to them, it's almost like they're being outreached to by an influencer in a weird, like kind of twisted way, right? Omnipresence is huge. And it's the idea of basically creating an ecosystem with your outreach. Instead of doing one-to-one, creating an ecosystem. I know this sounds complicated. I know you're thinking, oh, I'd rather just send my emails and I hope I get a response. But trust me, once you plant this seed, and you water the seed and you nurture the seed can grow pretty fucking massive. And that's obviously what you want when it comes to growing a business. So let me talk to you about the actual method of outreach that I found that has worked for me, has worked for my students, has made millions of dollars across the board, and that I would recommend to you as well. And this method of outreach is actually not outreach at all. It's becoming a magnet. It's becoming a magnet through the art of content creation. Now, you may hear content creation and it may make you a pitfall in your stomach and you go, oh, I hate content creation, I hate the idea of it, I don't want to be online. Listen, you want to grow a business, you want an element of freedom, you want financial freedom, you want location freedom, you want to buy back your time. Content creation is a very, very, very small piece of the puzzle to actually enable you to get there. And if you're scared to create content, firstly, you need to check yourself. I'll be honest, okay? You cannot be scared to try new things and go outside your comfort zone if you want to grow a business that scales beyond you. If you're scared to post content as a business owner, you really need to check yourself in terms of what you actually value. Do you value growth? Do you value scaling? Do you value the life that you want to live as a result of starting the business in the first place? If so, you need to get outside your comfort zone. Now, content creation is so incredibly fantastic because of a few different reasons. Number one, actually, before I even go into that, I want to explain the actual method of outreach, right? Part of it is content creation and part of it is actually the art of outreach, okay? Because through creating content, you are building omnipresence. You are creating an ecosystem of yourself and your awareness and who you are and your message, okay? You are essentially becoming a magnet here, and that's the goal with outreach, okay? Is to get inbound leads, inbound lead generation through becoming a magnet, because this can work on autopilot. This is not a one-for-one kind of exchange when it actually comes to acquiring a new client. It's not a case of I have to send an email and hopefully I get a response and have to send 100 emails to maybe get a no. It's a case of becoming a magnet within the relevant areas where your clients are, where your prospects are. So I'm not saying post on TikTok if you're trying to attract fintech clients, right? Because they're not going to be on TikTok. What I'm saying though is that becoming a magnet and creating an ecosystem of omnipresence around who you are in your business will elevate your outreach tenfold, okay? And now let me explain why creating content and implementing it as part of your outreach strategy works so well. Number one, it's an incredibly high leverage task. Like I said, creating content is one of those funny things where firstly, you can create content and get nothing in return for your first 10, 20, 30 posts. And that just happens. That is the case because content is also not a one-for-one sum game, but it's like playing the lottery, right? It's like for every time you post a video, you buy a lottery ticket, and all it takes is for one ticket, and I sound like a gambler here, one ticket to be the jackpot, and your business can transform completely. But what I would say with content creation is that you have a much better odds than obviously playing the lottery, in the case where when you learn how to constantly optimize your content and constantly improve, you have a high chance of that content doing well. And it's not about going viral whatsoever. It's just about building an ecosystem, right? So first reason it's so good is because it's so high leverage, because one video can attract countless different people. It's also evergreen in the sense of where one video will also have an impact on you and your business 2 months in the future. An outreach message will not. The second reason it works so well is that in the process of creating content and not trying to go viral, you're also building social proof. And social proof is an incredibly important aspect when it comes to outreach, because if you want to succeed with outreach, you need to stand out. That should be the ultimate focus. How can I stand out from the masses, from the rest, and make myself be unique? And this can come through developing a USP and stuff like that, but creating content allows you to build social proof, and social proof is what builds rapport with someone, right? You would potentially buy something from me, right? Because I have an element of social proof, right? You almost know who I am. You see my content. I know what I'm talking about, and that shows in my outreach, and it will show in my product as well. The further reason it works so well is because it brings people to you. You become a magnet. You become an authority figure within the topic of what you're talking about, right? And I'm assuming you're watching this because you're running some kind of service-based business. That's probably why you're doing outreach, whether you're a coach, consultant, freelancer, small agency owner. Let's say you're a videographer, right? And you're creating content around videography tips and tricks and how to use it, or whatever it may be. Creating content brings people to you. You become the authority figure within the space because you know what you're talking about, you're providing value, and people will see you as the person who they need to learn from or they should go to if they want to improve in that sector. That's fantastic. That's what's always worked for me. It's what's worked for my students as well. The fourth thing I would say it works so nicely with, or why it works, is because you compare it with DM outreach as well, right? Content creation doesn't have to be a lone wolf where you just create content, post a video, and kind of sit back and kind of fingers crossed that it's going to produce a result. You compare it with outreach really nicely in the case of where you post content, and when people engage with it, you reach out, right? Because at that point, they know you have social proof, you have trust, you have rapport. 3 biggest things you need with outreach. Perfect, you can reach out. But also, when you pair it with DM outreach, in the process of creating content, you're building a foundation for yourself that other people don't have. You're building an unfair advantage in the market. And now, trust me, I get reached out to, like I said, probably 50 plus times a day. For every outreach message that I actually open, especially when it comes from like Instagram DMs or something like that, I look at the person's profile in who outreached to me, right? 9 out of 10 times, this person's profile has 12 followers, a cat profile picture, no post, right? That's the kind of typical standard you're playing against. Creating content or just having some kind of personal brand, some kind of social proof allows your DM outreach to be elevated as well, because people will more initially trust you. They'll trust you off the back of your outreach because the fact that they can look at your profile and see that you are an expert in your craft, you have an element of authority, you know what you're talking about. Maybe you can show some case studies, testimonials if you have some, and that instantly builds an element of trust that you can use when it actually comes to acquiring that client in the sales call, sales process, and this kind of thing. Now, the importance of being a thought leader and bringing your attention your way is also incredibly important, because that's how you stand out in the market. Like I said, that's your USP. The alternative is that you don't have a personal brand, you're not posting any content, and therefore there is no reason for anybody to trust you. They don't know who you are. There's no reason for anybody to see you as unique compared to other people, because you may be the best at delivering your service within the space. You may be the best AI automations expert in the world, but no one's going to know that until they buy your service, right? But they're not going to buy your service until they know you're the best, until they know you're unique and you're different and you can help people in more unique ways. So that's why it's so important to actually use content creation to be able to portray that, to be able to show that, to be able to give off that message and that vibe before people are even interested in buying in the first place. The other thing I want to mention that's incredibly important when it actually comes down to this is that you want to make sure that you're using the relevant platform to where your prospects are as well, of course, right? If you're working with, like, say, SaaS companies, right? Typically, these SaaS companies will be on LinkedIn. You know, a lot of the founders are on LinkedIn, the CMOs are on LinkedIn, the CTOs are on LinkedIn. Being on the platform in where your prospect already is and creating an ecosystem on that platform was incredibly important. So before I did what I'm doing now, I ran an influencer marketing agency, and I worked with fintech brands and helping them basically increase their sales, brand awareness, and just run successful influencer marketing campaigns. Now, I created an ecosystem over on LinkedIn. I was posting content very, very frequently. I was also combining that with outreach at the same time to kind of like amplify the content creation, which worked incredibly well with my DM outreach. I got so many responses through LinkedIn. LinkedIn was my main client acquisition channel when I had an influencer marketing agency. But the point is that I grew an ecosystem on the platform where my prospects already were. So make sure you're choosing the relevant platform of where your prospects already live to actually outreach them from, right? So again, if they are primarily on Instagram for whatever reason, maybe they're coaches, maybe they're online coaches, make money online coaches, use Instagram as a platform where you're building an ecosystem of your content creation and you're also outreaching to them. Email also works incredibly well. It's a little bit more difficult because you can't tie it to a platform, but you can make it work incredibly well. And I'm going to explain that very shortly when I talk about how you can actually get started with creating content and using that as part of your outreach strategy. But yeah, make sure you're using a platform where your prospect is, because otherwise you are kind of like, you've got holes in your bucket almost, in which they're going to keep leaking out because you're wasting a lot of your energy and your time on not hitting the people that you want to hit because you're using the wrong platforms. That's another important thing. The next thing I want to mention when it comes to this outreach strategy is that the goal here isn't to go viral. The goal here is to be an authority figure. I think that when I say content creation to people, they put so much pressure on themselves because they think, right, I need to go viral, I need to get loads of views, I need to get thousands of thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of views to actually consider content creation a success. No. The people who I see run the most successful agencies in terms of their client acquisition and their lead generation, and they create content, they don't go viral. In fact, they don't get many views on their posts, on their videos, on their tweets or whatever it may be, on LinkedIn, it could be anything. They just have a very, very solid audience because of who they talk to through their content, which I'm going to explain in a minute as well when I say how to get started. They're very, very particular with who they're targeting, which means that they don't need to go viral because it's not about how many eyeballs they get on their content. It's about whose eyeballs they get on their content. That's what they value and that's what's important. When you're running a service-based business or just a business in which you're doing outreach and you have a specific niche that you're trying to target, you're trying to reach out to, and you think, cool, I'm going to implement content creation into this as well. It's not about trying to go viral. It's about talking to those people specifically through the camera, getting their attention and talking about their pain points and calling them out. That's what actually produces a result. Being an authority figure and making people trust you and respect you and resonate with you, that's what I did on LinkedIn. And now bear in mind, I started my influencer marketing agency when I looked like a 4-year-old. Like I had a baby face until probably the age of 17, 18. I'm 21 now. It meant that when I was running my agency, it wasn't like I came from a position of authority straight away. If I were to outreach these people without creating content, there is no reason in hell why they should trust me. Why should they? I'm a face on LinkedIn with a profile that's got 500 connections and 500 followers, and that's about it. Creating content, however, allowed them to actually build a relationship with me, like a parasocial relationship where I didn't know them, but they feel like they know me because I was able to provide value from my content and they were able to redeem that value and obviously use it however they want. I mean, I'm not sure how they use the value, but I would give out lead magnets, cheat sheets, I would give out free tips and tricks, and I would explain how they can implement different things themselves, which I'll go on to in a minute. And that allowed me to basically make LinkedIn my biggest client acquisition method and strategy upon everything. I never had to do a cold call with my agency because I used content. I never had to send ridiculous amount of completely endless emails because I used content. And I created an ecosystem around the content I was creating. So that's important as well. Don't go viral. Be an authority figure. Be specific with your targeting. And again, like I said, I have countless students that I teach this to. I actually run 2 programs, or one program that's kind of combined as 2. Skill to Profit, where I help people actually monetize their skills and turn those skills into a business, whether you're a videographer, you have a creative skill, you have a more tech-based skill, whether it's AI automation, whether you run ads, whether you're a chef, whether you're a farmer. I mean, I've helped some people in some weird industries monetize their skills and turn those skills into a service-based business using this strategy and countless others around creating an offer, pricing that offer, finding a market for that offer, client acquisition, scaling, systemizing. And I also have a program called Profit to Scale, where I actually help people who have made profit either from my previous program or people who maybe similar to yourself have an agency, maybe you're a freelancer, small business, one-man team, coach, consultant, but you have some kind of proven income, some kind of proven method that works. Scale that using systems, teams, using methods and strategies. I have a program where we have 7 other coaches inside the program. We have an outreach specialist, an ad specialist, a content specialist, a sales specialist. We have an automation specialist in which you join the program and you basically get access to all of these coaches. You get access to 3 Q&A calls a week from these coaches specifically, 20, 30 plus hours worth of recorded training content and one-to-ones with me. It's a pretty incredible program, and I'm only kind of pitching this because it's very relevant to pitch it right now, because if you're in this position where this sounds like music to your ears, I promise you the program is well worth taking a look at. It's called the Profit Scale Inner Circle. So I'll leave the link down below. I won't talk about it anymore, but I promise you it is incredibly valuable, and it may just be worth taking a look at and kind of like seeing if it suits. Anyway, let's talk about how you can actually get started with this outreach strategy in terms of actually what you can do from here, the action that you can take as soon as watching this video to start making some progress. So the first thing I want to touch on is actually what content you should be posting. Now, when I say create content, you're probably thinking, oh shit, do I have to dance in front of a camera? Do I have to like learn how to talk to a camera for the first time? No and yes, you don't have to dance in front of a camera, but I would say that video content is always going to play to your advantage massively because of the fact that you're able to show how human you are. 100% you can do exactly what I'm talking about through text-based content. Posting on Twitter, on LinkedIn, purely text-based, it works, don't get me wrong, but creating video content allows you to show that you are human and build this trust and relationship. So what content to post is the first thing. Now, when it actually comes down to what content to post, you want to focus on value. Value. It should all be around value posts. You're not trying to show off how great you are. You're not trying to show off, oh, here's what I've done in the past and here's how I can help you. No, it's all about building rapport and providing value by showcasing what you can do and how you can do it. And not in a douchey way, not in a buy my thing way, but in a way of, I can help you do this, and here is it for free. Here's tips, here's tricks, here's value, whatever it may be. An easy strategy you can use, for example, let's say that you are you're an editor, right, a video editor, and you work with Make Money Online coaches. And a super easy strategy that you can use is actually creating content showcasing how you would improve these coaches' videos through editing, right? And you can kind of show side by side, you can show variations and be like, I revamped this guy's video, here's it much better, you know, and this is giving like tips and tricks. Maybe you can even showcase how you did it as well, and you can be like, here's the template I used, or here's the reason I edited it this way, whatever it may be. And this works with any skill. You know, you can take AI automation and be like, here's how I would automate Callum's onboarding process using AI automation, and you can make a video about that. Because at the same time as you building a bit of rapport with the people you're calling out, you're also showcasing your value. You're saying, I know how to do this, and here's how I'm doing it. And you're also showcasing that you're human. There's countless benefits that come from it. You just kind of got to get started with it, which is the biggest thing. So when it comes to creating content, what content should I post? Showcase your value. Think about, how can I show that I am the best at doing this while still providing value? A lot of the time it's through doing that and showcasing how you did it. Two videos ago when I posted a video, maybe 3 videos ago on this YouTube channel, I posted a video breaking down a previous success student's case study where I just went on a whiteboard and I just broke down how I did everything. That's a very similar style of video that you could make, not showcasing testimonials or case studies, but that's what I did in terms of I showcased, I'm good at the skill that I'm talking about. Here's an example of how I did exactly what I did, and here's value that I'm providing at the same time as showcasing how I did what I did, right? So finding a combination of those 3 things is always super beneficial, and you can get a lot out of it as part of your outreach strategy. The second thing is call people out in your content. Make sure you're calling people out. Like I said, the goal here isn't to go viral. The goal here is to be hyper specific with your targeting and make sure you're solving one person's problem. Not one person, but one niche, one industry, one character type, more specifically, because when they feel called out, they will be more incentivized to take action and to actually inquire more and want to learn more and want to buy your services, have a chat with you, whatever it is. Call people out. Here's how I would do this into this. Here's how I would, for example, take this brand and revamp their influencer marketing campaign. Here's exactly how I would do it. I would choose these influencers because of this reason. I would then do this. I would then do this. You're providing value at the same time, and also it's a really good strategy to combine with DM outreach. You know, if you're like the video editor example that I used, and you showcase, hey, here's how I would re-edit Callum's video to get better views, and you posted it on your social media, and at the same time you outreach to me and you said, hey Callum, I actually just made a video about how I would re-edit your videos and make them 10 times better, posted it, feel free to check it out. You're then using your content as a lead magnet, right? Because at the same time as you showcasing your worth, you're maybe building an audience of people that like what you're talking about. You're also grabbing my attention because you're giving something to me for free whilst showcasing how good you are at it, if that makes sense, which works so nicely. Like, I don't know, you could have a chatbot service and you could say, here's how I would take, I don't know, XYZ company and create the best chatbot for them I possibly could. And then you could reach out to them and say, hey, I created an example chatbot for you on this social media post. Here's how I did it. Are you interested in learning more? It could be anything. That's the idea. Okay. Pairing it with your outreach works really well. Using your content as a lead magnet, calling people out in your content, showcasing your skills naturally, and posting to provide value. If you can nail those things, I promise you, this will be your best lead generation method ever. You know, it would be the best. It would trump anything. It would trump any emails you send, any DMs you send, any cold calls you call. people you call through cold calls. This is something that once you plant the seed and once you start to nurture the seed and once you start to water the seed, you'll get incredible results as a result. Hopefully this all made sense though. I know it's all kind of like off the tip of my tongue, on top of my head, but this is stuff that will transform your business. It's transformed my business. It's transformed countless of my students' ones. Check the link out down below. It's going to be super helpful. There's some stuff in there you'll love, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Thank you.